what I feel bad about is that since coffee is a commodity in Brazil, the government is not paying attention to it as a very, very good
economic
product
move.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Because it's good for people's health. Even the worst coffee, quality-wise, is better than sodas and industrialized juices. And it's a lot better for health, for the children at school, for anything. So it would be good in any way to invest in making the Brazilian people at first know we're the biggest producer. They don't even know that.
We have an announcement to make. Starting this June, Mappa Forward is bringing a new perspective to the Japanese coffee industry with Mappa Forward Japan. Every 2 weeks, we're highlighting a selected series from the Daily Coffee Pro by Mappa Forward, translated and available in Japanese on our YouTube channel. Follow along on our new Instagram account, Mappa Forward Japan, where we'll share industry commentary, episode clips, and market updates all in Japanese. And if you're in the Japanese coffee industry, join our mailing list for updates and exclusive content also in Japanese. All the details are at mappaforward.coffee/Japan, and we'd love you to share this information with your Japanese friends in the coffee industry. Check the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mappa Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of an awesome 5-part series with Isabela from Coffee Lab in Brazil. We are talking about understanding Brazil as an origin country. And we're looking at that from the perspective of the kind of the whole vertically integrated supply chain within Brazil. Because not only is Brazil an origin country that grows coffee, it's an origin country that consumes a lot of coffee. And so in this episode, we're talking about converting the Brazilian coffee consumer to specialty coffee. And we were talking in the last episode about how this is a very unique moment in the market where we would be able to perhaps make some headway in doing that, Isabela, because there's not a lot of, the market's not saturated. Like, let's say it is in Australia. The market is saturated with specialty coffee houses, or in parts of the United States or in parts of Europe. Certainly here in Dubai, it's absolutely flooded with specialty coffee shops, right? So anyone who comes new into the market here has to do something so exceptionally different in order to stand out. That's not what is happening in Brazil, right? You guys are much earlier in the innovation S-curve, as we say. So where are you guys looking at the relationship between the consumer and specialty coffee now?
I don't think we're far behind. I'm an eyewitness of the whole thing in the world, right? Mm-hmm. We began in 2000, opening coffee shops and specialty coffee shops. And if we compared some time in Brazil with the east coast of the United States, we have more people. And France and Spain and a lot of places in Europe, we were like going as fast as. But Brazil is such a challenging country in so many aspects, and running business here is as challenging as in other countries. But there's more, because some of the costs here, just so you have an idea, we're taxed on our revenue. It doesn't matter if we're profitable. If we're not profitable that month, we're gonna be taxed the same. It's over revenue, and that's a crime. That's a crime.
So for those who don't quite understand why that's such a big deal, when your business makes money, usually the taxation works for corporations and for businesses that you get to take your revenue and you get to make all the deductions that your business spends money on. And when you have made all those deductions as a tax exemption, what you're left with, your net profit, is what you're taxed on. So, and it's usually a
I
lot,
wish.
significantly less than the revenue. In the coffee industry, it's usually about 3 to 6% of your revenue, right? And so then you pay tax on the 3 to 6%. And usually the tax is depending on what country, like in the United States, now it's about 18%. In Australia, it's depending on how much you're earning, it's about 20%. Here it's nothing. So it's great. But
Coffee
in
lab in
Brazil,
Dubai.
we have a coffee lab here.
Oh, we have to change
Yeah.
the name then.
It'll change the name, but let's talk. But anyway, so what Isabella is saying is, while most countries are taxing on that 3% of revenue, in Brazil, they're taxing them on 100% of their revenue. Which,
for example,
wow.
It's 11 now. It has different tax
Brackets.
different fees for each kind of
Bracket.
revenue you have. Right now, bracket. Right now, I'm taxed on 11% of my revenue.
That's
He's my
ridiculous.
partner. He's my associate, the government.
You're a tax collector.
Right. Yes. So it is challenging. And the labor costs, as I said, so it's challenging to run business in Brazil. And social problems, and we have a lot of social problems. So if you're not very, very knowledgeable and disciplined, you're gonna bankrupt. I mean, you're gonna close your business, because it's really hard to make money and to be profitable. I can't complain, but I'm very disciplined. And
Right.
I study finance. I know exactly all my costs by sense. I know everything about that is to know about this business, so I can make money, because I'm a very traumatized person. And I'm very afraid of
I know that feeling.
bankrupt.
Yeah.
And so there's at the same time, I don't feel it's hard to make people here try specialty coffee and start changing the consumption habits. I don't think it's as hard as people will want to believe it is. It's challenging, because you have to tell people this is coffee, but it tastes so different from what.
But my question is, like, you have a cultural challenge at the moment, right? Like, you've got to convert people. How do Brazilians drink their morning coffee?
There's, I mean, we have to make, not we have to, but we want to make more people to drink their coffees better at home. That's one thing. So to make better coffees at home, and we want to make the out of home consumption to grow.
Right. So with Brazilians, traditionally, is it that you wake up and have a coffee, or is it that you go out to a cafe and have coffee?
It's more more people, they drink their first coffee at home. More.
Okay.
Now we're, of course, every year, every month, we have more people having their first coffee. Yeah. But no, but most of the people, I have my first coffee in my house.
Right.
I don't leave my house without having any coffee. There's no way I can do that. So it's both ways, and that's great. Actually, that's great.
Yeah.
To focus on both ways, because this make the business need. You have to to sell cups of coffee, you have to sell packs of coffee for people to
Hmm.
take home. You have a very good blend business wise to make your business grow and the consumption of coffee grow in Brazil. What I feel bad about is that since coffee is a commodity in Brazil, the government is not paying attention to it as a very, very good um, product
Economic move.
to. Right, exactly.
Right.
Because it's good for people's health. Even the worst coffee, quality wise, is better than sodas and
Right.
industrialized juices, and it's a lot better for
Hmm.
health, for a lot for the children at school, for anything. So it would be good in any way to invest in making the Brazilian people at first know we're the biggest producer. They don't even know that.
Wait, what? Really?
A lot of people don't know we're the biggest producer in the world.
Isn't that interesting?
That's horrible. That's sad. That's and so we have to tell them that. We have to tell that's a great product to consume. It's cheap.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not saying that people don't are out for everyone is cheap, but compared to soda and to so many other things that we buy in our daily lives, even people that has less money compared, this is not expensive.
Okay.
So the government's not talking about coffee at all, and the associations they're not making this easier either. I mean, we need to educate people about coffee in general, not only quality coffee, because we would be the owners of the world if we did that.
That's been my big kind of thing over the years about the SCA. Like, whose responsibility is it to make specialty coffee more known around the world if it's not the associations that are there to facilitate trade? Like, isn't creating a better image of specialty coffee and at least getting the idea of specialty coffee out there to the public as consumers, who's going to do that if it's not the associations, the BSCA, the SCA, SCAJ, all of these places, right? And who will fill that gap? And the people who fill that gap is Nestle and JD Pete's and Starbucks, and all of these places are the ones with all their subsidiary companies that are setting the tone of what specialty coffee is. So we miss the opportunity.
Yeah, that's my worry right now because I don't think we missed the opportunity. This train is always. I mean, we can go back and we can still catch it, and um, we can, but we do have to again. I'm maybe I'm mono theme. I'm always going to say that we need education, and
Yeah, I
the
agree.
associations they have this um, um, goal, and they're associations that are more into business than education. I don't know how to say that in English in a more intelligent way. Maybe in Portuguese I do, but um, if
They're more focused on
for
revenue
example,
for their own association and profit. They're more
and their
focused on profits.
partners.
Right.
Yeah, because we go to SCA. I've been to some SCA meetings, and I've been member already of all of them. And I try to see who are the council,
The board.
not the board, and a lot of big companies. What are they doing here? Are
Yeah.
they? Why do they have a seat in a board? It's all about
That's
money because
that's why
we
I asked
need.
Michael in the series, Like who's on the board of the CQI when they're making a decision
Precisely.
about not engaging the members? Who is the board that's making this decision? Well, they end up being big time coffee companies that are making this decision and cutting out members. And you're telling me that 12 people who are business elites in our industry couldn't figure out how to compete with the SCA. You can't be fucking serious. You can't be
That's
fucking
weird.
serious.
At least weird. Yes.
And
Yeah,
they're the ones
that,
who decided that they're going to take the decision on behalf of the members. This is exactly what you're saying. You're saying that these decisions are being made and it's not. Yeah, I hear you. I agree with you.
and for now, for example, now BSc has a very, very good certification program. I mean, when it comes to cert, to assessing coffee and evaluating
Mm-hmm.
it, and
Certifying
it's
it a
nice.
specialty.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's been nice since the beginning. Does the consumer know it exists? No.
Your facial expressions are fantastic. She's fucking great. If you're only listening to this podcast, stop now. I'm telling you, go and watch it. She's a comedy act unto herself. It's fantastic. I hear you.
But
Like this.
it doesn't add
It,
their certificate, their seal of quality doesn't add value. Why
well,
should
it's not.
I pay for that?
It's the thing is, it could add value, but because they're
Good.
leaving money on the table, right? Like they're not going, and this is why I keep saying that these associations are the ones who need to create the market penetration that we need to the consumer. They need to come ahead of the people who are selling the actual product. They're the ones that need, like, instead of a fucking CVA, what they could have done was created a standard that helped the consumer understand what specialty coffee is.
We need to be strict. I mean, we coffee people, we need to establish these standards strictly because it is more clear. I mean, to the consumer when it's strict. Because now, in the beginning of the history of specialty coffee in the world, this is not the time to be flexible, to be effective. No, it's time.
You need your own
Sorry.
podcast. It's so good. Go on.
You need to be technical. You need to be technical. You need to be your standards have to be really high because naturally, the world is going to choose. The world's going to dance along. But we as coffee professionals, we need to be very strict and tell people with no fear of being rigid that this is high quality, this is middle quality, this is low quality, and that's okay with everything that now you choose, but this is clearly what it is. Okay? So we need to be, for example, infused and highly fermented
Co-fermented,
coffees.
yeah.
Yeah, the co-fermented coffees. I like to say highly fermented because all the coffees ferment. That's what happens. But these highly fermented coffees, these funky coffees, they're like bad date.
How are they like a bad date? Tell me exactly what you mean by that. I can't fucking wait to hear this. Felipe's sitting in his car or he's in his office listening to this saying, I have no idea what she's about to say, these crazy women. Why did I put them together? Hi, Felipe. Anyway, go ahead. What do you mean by they're like a bad date?
You know, when you're in a app and then you match with someone and there's a lot of expectation and promises. Whoa, this seems good. I mean, the talk is good. This is promising. And then when you go to the date and then you say like, whoa, it's you. That's the the highly fermented funky coffees, like you smell and they say, whoa, this is promising. bananas, strawberry, and cashew fruit. Okay, that's a little common, but let's see, it's promising. It's fruity. And then you taste it and it's nothing there. No body, no sweetness. It's astringent. That's what it is.
That sounds like some of
So
my really bad dates, actually. So you nailed it. They're astringent. They're far too over fermented.
it's empty, empty. Because
They're
that's what
hollow.
fermentation
Yeah.
makes with they're hollow. That's what fermentation makes if it's way uh, out of control. It gets there's nothing for you to. So
Yeah.
if we still think that's okay in coffee, because I used to think, I mean, I'm from the times when this for commodity, this is a defect. This is highly defective. I understand there are some people that are doing great job fermenting coffees or co-fermenting coffees, like Da Terra here in Brazil. They do a great job doing great fermentation, and you can feel it all, and it's still preserved. It's still funky, but preserved. And there are some producers, small producers in Brazil, that they are doing it in a controlled way that you don't get nothing out of your mouth. And but there should be a clear limit of this is from this up. This is quality. From this down, it's not quality. It's not quality, even though it smells like strawberry. So this is just an example. But why are we so afraid of saying that quality coffee shouldn't taste bitter? It shouldn't. If the higher you go on score on quality, the less bitter coffee is perceived, right? That's for any culture I know. Why are we so afraid of establishing this as a parameter? Parameter, yeah. Why? Oh, for commercial reasons. But look, the more clear we establish these patterns, the more clear the higher we are going to be able to charge all of them in a long and medium and medium term. So the more you bring the quality up, you bring it all up. If anything is clear, I mean, if things are not very clear, why should I pay more?
Yeah, well, this is a whole series unto itself, right? Like, and this is the problem is who gets to decide if bitter or if astringent. Like you and I agree that those are not qualities that we want in our cup, but right now, Nestle is the one that's setting. But listen, Zor, Shahan Yeretzin came on this podcast and he said that it is science to collect data from a whole group of people and base what normal is based on a group of people. No, that's not science. That's market research.
Right.
No disrespect to Shahan. I like Shahan. But those two things are not the same thing. And in coffee, the reason that it's difficult is because taste is subjective. So you're never going to get an objective reality of what anything is that's good because it's different for different people. And so because of that,
compounds, it's measured both by science and neural perception.
Right, but I listen, whatever those compounds are, cultural palate dictates that in some cultures those things are delicious. And in other cultures they're not. And the way that my biochemistry works is different from the way that your biochemistry works. And so all of these compounds, you and I can never know if what we're tasting is the same thing because of the impact of our biochemistry and our microbiome on the way that our brain perceives those perceptions. It's like we can never know if what you're seeing that's blue is the same way as I'm seeing blue, right? Which means all of these things are subjective. As close as we want to come to it being objective, we never actually land at a scientifically objective fact. And that's the
I
problem here.
disagree a little because
Great.
there's objectiveness and there's subjectiveness. There are both of them, but the problem is that we are not comfortable saying to people that it's still okay if you don't prefer what's technically considered high quality. It's okay. The problem is that we are not dealing with this in the way we should. Like in a wine, for example. I there are people who prefer less quality wine, and they're okay with that. They say,
Mhm.
okay, I know this is not European old style Burgundy wine, but I don't like that. I like a more simple wine. That's what we should do in coffee. Let give the right information technically wise, and there are some things that are measurable. If we set a standard that is that even based on science and it's measurable, if we set that standard, we can let people comfortable enough to say, look, you prefer middle average quality coffee, and that's
Mhm.
okay because your preference is only culturally wise or personally wise is always gonna exist. But whoever is we, I mean, coffee is so new that this setting the standard for what is technically considered quality. And this can change. I'm not saying that it has
Mm.
changed because when Irna defined whatever, and she said, oh, there's coffee that is specialty, and that's wort coffee from Central America. That's what it was. And now we have naturals being considered specialty coffee. Things are changing, and we can update the
Mhm.
definition of what technically quality is considered. But there are some things that are measurable and perception wise, neurologically wise, and we can. The problem is we're too afraid of saying this is high quality. Okay, and that's it. It doesn't mean anything other than this. It's
But it
technical.
does.
This is high
No, no, no.
quality.
It does. It's the people who are setting the standards, the people who are deciding what quality is. That's when, who is the person who's deciding that that particular compound is something that we should consider quality? This is where the nuance is important. This is where, when we start to look at the power
Yeah, the
structures
nuance is
behind things,
important.
but not the nuance of the flavor, the nuance of the decision making. This is important. Who are the scientists that are making this decision? And what are the agendas behind those people that are making the decisions? This is where we get into a lot of trouble, where we turn around and we say, but a scientist said this. Which scientist? The scientist that's doing a tour with an equipment manufacturing company right now that's got the loudest voice in the industry? Or is it the scientist that sells the most number of books? Or is it the scientist that's trying to sell diplomas of coffee in Switzerland? Which scientist? Not the scientist that doesn't have a financial interest. And that's my problem. My problem is
I
that it's
understand.
not objective. And until we can come up with an
But it
understanding,
could be. It could be.
not in the current ecosystem.
No.
There's no chance of it being in the current ecosystem because there's too many commercial interests at play. And while that's the case, we cannot come to any formulation of any level of objectivity because taste is subjective. And
The flavor
it doesn't.
wheel. The flavor wheel.
But
When it was released, when it was releasing the summit, I was there when the last one was released in the summit, and then UC Davis. And then, okay, the methodology they used, it was amazing, blah, blah, blah. They only used Americans.
so that you see my point, right? You see my point.
I know what you're talking about. Yes. But I still think we should. I mean, of course, who's paying for that?
Exactly.
Who's paying for that bill, right? Yes. But we still should try as a community, as a community, coffee community, try and get as close as we can to some sort of organization of what quality is, because otherwise, why then? I mean, why? Why am I going to tell the producer to what? Why?
Well, and I would argue that instead of focusing on that, which I think we should focus on at some point, shouldn't we figure out how to make sure that there's going to be coffee over the next 50 years? Isn't that the problem that we should be solving? Like, I love that people want to waste their time on fucking what is the definition of specialty coffee? But hey, folks, we've got maybe, if we're lucky, 20 harvests yet left. What are we going to do beyond that? So while everybody's focusing on this, what are we doing about making sure there's going to be coffee for the next generation of business owners and the next generation of coffee producers? That's what we should be spending our time understanding and trying to solve. But,
and let me be very, very uncomfortable here now and still insist on the idea that establishing quality would help exactly that as well. Because we, as we establish what quality is, whatever, it can change, it can be updated, whatever, but we can add value. If we add value, there's more money being paid by the consumer, so we can guarantee at least the survival of some kind of coffee production. So establishing quality clearly is never bad. Even for that.
I don't think it's bad. What I think is it is too fragile when the ecosystem around quality, the price, the yield, the supply, the labor, the logistics, that whole ecosystem is so fragile and so stressed that the second any of it gets stress tested, fuck your quality. Quality doesn't even become a consideration. If we want quality to be something that sticks, we have to make everything around quality solid, so that the moment we're focusing on quality, we're building on a solid foundation. Right now, the second a producer can actually sell their coffee without having to actually adhere to quality standards, of course they will. Because we have treated them so badly for so long that we have given them no reason. When they can't get containers, what happens to your quality? When your coffee is going to sit there at origin or on a port waiting to be put on a ship, what's going to happen to your quality? All of these things are creating such a crunch on the entire supply chain that to focus on quality right now as the leading factor in our industry almost feels dysfunctional to me. I'm not saying it's not an important thing that we need to be talking about. What I think is that we wasted the last 30 years in specialty coffee. And we should have been using that 30 years to secure the supply chain. And what I mean by that is we should have strengthened through education people's understanding of coffee production, people's understanding of logistics, people's understanding of how coffee contracts work, people's understanding of how to cup coffee and what it is. And we should have made all of that accessible. We should have taught people how to read financial statements. We should have advocated that you should want to learn those things. And when you can create solid business models like that, quality should have been one of those things that we included in that.
Sure.
We've wasted the last 30 years. And now we're at a situation where all of those things are urgent. All of those things are right at the edge of collapsing. And now is the time people want to talk about quality? I don't understand it. And maybe I'm not seeing it.
But I don't think people are talking about quality. That's it.
You were just at Houston. You just heard what happened at Houston. Of course they're talking about quality. The whole conversation over the last couple of months has been about the CVA.
But that's, for me, they're actually being more flexible. They are flexibilizing. They're being more flexible. They're saying anything can be quality. That's what they are doing.
Okay, folks. In the next episode, because we were already almost 35 minutes. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how Brazil is redeeming itself from the sins of the past, which is a perfect time for us to go into the next episode. Join us for that. I have absolutely loved this conversation, Isabela. Thank you. So everyone, join us for the next episode. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.